This story starts, for me, with an image from the archives and a puzzle. I had heard a rumour that the RSPB, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, had been founded by Victorian women. So, because I'd never heard of this before, I thought I'd better have a look online and see if I could find them. Could this be true? But the image that kept coming up was of this strange parade of what looked like Victorian men, these rather gloomy men with placards. And the message seemed to be, thank goodness for these chaps. If it wasn't for them, we would not have the RSPB today. And this was confirmed by friends of mine who work within the RSPB. They said, oh yes, these are our founders, the forefathers, here they are. How strange. I thought, well, perhaps if I go to the archives where they're stored at the RSPB headquarters, the lodge in Sandy, Bedfordshire, I might find some fleeting references to these elusive women. So I made an appointment and turned up. And the librarian apologised to me. She said, I'm really sorry, we've hardly got anything. A bomb hit our London headquarters during the Blitz and it just wiped out all those early records, but you're welcome to have a look through this jumble of old papers and photographs. So for 2 days, I had a good forage through what there was. Bit of a mess, and I found a lot of pictures of men, which served to confirm my belief, I suppose, that the RSPB was a bit of a boys' club, that birds belong to blokes. We've got the staff line-up in the late 60s, and I think it's safe to say that the two dolly birds in the middle are the secretaries and nothing more senior. I got a bit despondent. I thought, well, perhaps it just is one of those strange rumours. And then I discovered a box about this big, and written on the lid, in very old handwriting, was the word contraband. So I prized the lid off and shook out onto the desk in front of me something that took my breath away, a collection of feathers. And these aren't just feathers. These were millinery adornments from the Victorian and Edwardian eras, highly worked, wired, curled, dyed, from paradise, grebe, egret, all these now protected species, that had been taken from the hats of women in the late Victorian and Edwardian era as evidence of this despicable trade in bird skins and bird feathers. Now, the fashion for feathers lasted a good half century, from about 1870 to 1920, and it was estimated that around 5 million birds were being killed annually to feed this fashion. I did find one other thing in the archives that intrigued me, and this was a photograph of a woman who has gone down in the annals as Mrs. Lemon. But in this photograph, as I discovered, she is Miss. She is Miss Etta Smith. And one anecdote had clung to her that really intrigued me. Etta, as a young woman, would go to her family church, St. Margaret's in Lee, in the very smart suburb of Blackheath, and she would look beadily around the congregation as they rose to sing a hymn, and take out a little pocketbook and a pencil, and she would write down the name of every woman wearing the bird hat, a hat decorated with feathers or bird skins. She would also write down the species they were wearing. She would then return home and write each woman a letter calling out, as we would say today, their cruelty towards God's creatures as she saw it. Did these women have any idea of the cruelty entailed in wearing a bird that was probably taken during the nesting season, leaving starving chicks or eggs? Had they thought about this? No, they probably hadn't. So this woman intrigued me, and she became the central figure in an extraordinary story that I then discovered.